This is The Healthy Healer, where true voice is your medicine. This is where we help doctors and other healers navigate through the challenging times by learning from the best minds in the healing industry. Laugh, cry, and be surprised. It's entertainment, education, and inspiration so you can continue to be the unique and amazing healer you were destined to be. Welcome to humanity. Welcome to The Healthy Healer with Dr. Fred.
Hi, it's Dr. Fred, and today I get to introduce you to one of my good friends, one of my colleagues, one of my mentors, and my mentees, someone who's been in the field for multiple decades, has taken on so many different roles of being a healer, probably long before he went to medical school. He's articulate, he's funny, he's brilliant, he's a massive contribution to humanity. He's been through the ringer. He's certainly had his ups and downs. He's had his face smashed against brick walls, figuratively, and he's taken on challenges that most of us can only dream of. Mark has saved many people's lives, and if anything else, has brought respect to the people he listens to and the people he speaks to. He has a way about him that's unique, but in the end, Mark is just like all of us, a human being who loves being with other human beings and realizes that it is in that connection that healing takes place. Mark's going to talk to us a little bit today about what it means to be healthy and what it means to be a healer and how they interact with each other and how his experience actually taps into all of those areas together and really brings forth somebody who is a true master at being a healthy healer. So enjoy Mark Ibsen. Thanks for being on the show. Bye for now. In order to heal, in order to give away any kind of healing, one has to be aware of what healing's about. And the only way one can really know about what healing's about is to have healed themselves at least on a few occasions. The guest I have today is someone who has healed himself on more than a few occasions. I know, and maybe he'll tell us about a book that might be coming around the corner that actually, the title speaks a little bit to how many times that Mark Ibsen has healed himself as a healer. And who he comes back at each and every time is a more fortified, a more galvanized, a more committed, a more dedicated, a more experienced healer than he's ever been before. And we all get to capitalize. We all get to reap the benefits of who Dr. Mark Ibsen is for the world. So without further ado, it's my deepest pleasure to introduce you, my listening audience, to my first guest on this Healthy Healer podcast, Dr. Mark Ibsen. Dr. Mark Ibsen, thank you for being on the show. Look at you in the skiing. What's happening over there?
Hi, Fred. First, I want to just thank you for having me. And sure. Thank you for introducing me to the guy that you're describing.
Exactly, right?
Which is something I wish to live into at a moment-by-moment basis. So I'm standing at the top of a ski run with the name of Why. So I might be at the corner of why and why not. And I'm having the opportunity to relive parts of my past or engage in recreation, which is, of course, recreation.
Mm-hmm. Is that part of the healing process for you? I suppose it is. Is that part of the healthy healer? I know you love skiing. I mean, after all, you live in a state there where skiing is sometimes the only way to get to the store. So, skiing is important to you. Tell us a little bit about how skiing and physical health, or maybe what does skiing offer for you that leaves you as a healthy healer?
Life is a series, or it occurs to me this way, as a series of opportunities to get something or see what there is to see. And skiing is a metaphor for that in the nature of breakdowns that lead to breakthroughs. My first skiing experience was between the legs of my mother up a rope tow, and I had a miserable experience, and I made it miserable for everybody who was with me, and they didn't go skiing again for 6 years. And that was the beginning. And as I look back on it, I have ties to family. I have ties to Norwegian heritage and Danish heritage. And then I have ties to the exhilaration of moving my body through nature and giving up attachments or whatever that is, giving up the yuck that I can gather during the day, and restoring my soul.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And is skiing your number one go-to to get that done? Do you feel like?
No. As a matter of fact, I'm having a resurgence of skiing because as an expert skier, skiing is almost easier than walking these days.
Mm-hmm.
So I can access a big chunk of nature efficiently, without spending days going back in the backcountry or something like that, which are not available to me these days. So I went through a healing crisis this last year.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Well, I have a history of coronary disease. My father died of a heart attack. His father died of a heart attack. So it's always been there for me. I had an angioplasty 20 years ago, 3 angioplasties 3 years ago. And then right in the middle of COVID, I found myself with low energy and ventricular tachycardia when I did my stress test.
Mm.
So it was really confronting because I feel like I've done all I can to deal with that diagnosis. And yet, some diagnoses must be managed, that you don't get to like discard the diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up with quadruple bypass, which of course I've been trying to avoid most of my life.
Yeah.
And then there it is. And then this about 6 weeks of euphoria that I survived the surgery.
Yeah.
And then about 6 months of profound fatigue and unable to accomplish much. Mm-hmm. Like move from the bed to the recliner, to the dinner table, to the recliner, back to bed, and confused by all of that, and confronted by it, and seeking support in getting through that, or in my case, being type A, seeking support in getting through it faster.
Exactly. Right.
Because it takes a year, right? It's like, no, it doesn't take me a year.
Right. That's for normal people. That's for heathens. The heathens.
Yeah, the unwashed masses.
Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm.
Well, that reminds me of the masses. It's like if Karl Marx said religion is the opiate of the masses, then and I'm having this discomfort. Well, I could use some of that opiate. So it has been a spiritual experience, not dying, being alive, being just excited about being alive, and then asking my question, is this worth it? Is this what alive looks like for me, or what will this look like later? And I was really scared and isolated and afraid that I'm suddenly old. Like, oh, my future's full of open back hospital gowns, walkers, and depends. And like, okay, well, that's hard to be with, and maybe it's true. But what can I do in the meantime, or why engage in any of it? Why not just give up and let it all go? And so in the process of engaging in that conversation, I had this miraculous thing happen, which I feel like at the time I thought I had no control over. But I got a phone call from a pain activist colleague of mine, and she was asking for my help. And suddenly I was standing up, erect, full spine, ready to engage and be with her and contribute like I've done all my life. And it was like, oh, where have you been? Where has this ability to contribute been? It was like on sabbatical or something.
Yeah.
and sabbaticals are important. And so I had a long one. It's fairly enforced, but all of a sudden I now have the energy to get back in the game.
Well, Mark, maybe you can help. For those of us who are healers, I think there's a beautiful resonating experience as you speak to that, almost spontaneous epiphany when she approaches you, asking for help, and you show up healthier than you've been for years as a
Yeah.
response to her request.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I chose to have you be my first interview for here, because I want to, for this podcast, I wonder if you can explore inside of your soul for a moment. What is it about the request to step into your healership or your healing nature that then, that then catalyzed you becoming healthy as a direct result of the acceptance of that challenge?
Yeah, a great question. Thank you. First of all, I think a physician can lose track of the fact that they're a healer by operating on the assembly line of medicine.
Thank you.
And having all those chocolates or whatever's on the assembly line going by, and forgetting the fact that it's my job to be present and listen to the patient as they're all flowing by me. So one opportunity was I was away from it for long enough to appreciate it when it showed up. Like a daily schedule of lots of stuff to do puts me into human doing instead of human being.
Mm-hmm.
And a forced sabbatical has me wondering, will I ever be able to do this again? And then when the opportunity shows up, to jump at it.
Yeah.
As opposed to waking up in the morning and having my coffee and grinding through, which I'm good at doing. But the opportunity to just recreate my commitment, my Hippocratic Oath. So it's like, I'm here to do no harm. Okay, what kind of trouble can I get into doing that?
Yeah.
And so being away from it is really good, whether it's an hour or 6 months or something. It's like Ebenezer Scrooge on Christmas morning for me. It's like, boy, go buy that goose. I'm here, I'm alive, and thank God.
Mm-hmm. So this is a different question, but maybe very similar. So I'm going to try to couple these inquiries. Number one, we have it that she approaches you and she activates and galvanizes and restores and resets you so that not only are you ready to be a contributing healer, but you're like catapulted into being a contributing healthy healer. Now, you're speaking to something a little bit different here, which is the power of the sabbatical, or sort of the space you find yourself outside of the medical industrial complex assembly line that I guess I hear you saying that allows you to recalibrate and then refocus what it is for you to carry out the Hippocratic Oath, for instance. Can you speak to the merger of those things? And because I think we're getting kind of to the core of Dr. Mark here of what healing and what healing is and how health contributes to being an effective, divine healer after all. A lot of questions. Sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I love it. A lot of answers.
Yeah.
Let's sort them out. So I went through some stuff, and we can talk about that if you like. But what I went through is a transition in my medical practice, where I was not allowed to practice for a little bit, which really made it.
The listeners aren't going to let you get away with that, and we have a few minutes here. Give us a little bit of a thumbnail of the stuff that you went through.
Well, I ran an emergency medicine practice for about 35 years. I opened an urgent care in 2010, co-located with a natural medicine clinic, and that was just thrilling and really rich conversations between me and the natural medicine people. And I got to be a guide across the River Styx into the medical system for people who were terrified of it. And it was just my privilege to do that for them. At some point, pain patients started coming in who had been dropped from their opiates, and they were in withdrawal. Having kicked that can down the road as an ER doctor for 35 years, I decided, well, there's a lovely little can in the road. Maybe I'll pick it up. And all of a sudden, it transformed my practice. And I was able to help hundreds of patients wean off their opiates because they'd been taken away. And they were no longer trusting of the medical system to keep treating them. 20% of those patients wouldn't wean, and I was stuck with them as patients. And so I'm suddenly a pain doctor. And what I understood about pain is that I am well trained in treating pain. I've had 2 back surgeries, 1 heart surgery, Achilles tendon rupture, bunch of surgeries, kidney stones. And so I've had my own share of pain in my life, which makes me a ninja if you're having pain.
Exactly.
And so that training came to bear when pain patients showed up for my help, because I could realize that, yes, there's no objective measurement of pain. It's subjective. I've been in agony before, and I consider ignoring a patient's agony to be a violation of my Hippocratic Oath of do no harm.
Yes.
So then I find myself outside for a while, and then my clinic closed, and all that went away, and Montana became a wasteland for pain management, and I was out. Like, I didn't want to go to prison, so I'm out. And I explained that to my patients. I said, I can't help you if they take away my license or put me in prison. I'm going to do my best to help you up to that point. And then at some point, it became clear to me that I couldn't help anymore. So after about 7 years out of that conversation, all of a sudden this call from Kristen, I'm in pain, or my husband's in pain and he can't have his medicines. Can you help us? Now I'm trained to say, yes, I can help with that. And the way I can help someone who's desperate is to acknowledge that there's a desperate situation, acknowledge that they're having a sense of betrayal because they've been let down by the system. And then say to that patient, together we're going to work something out. I'm no longer the patriarchal, here's your prescription person. I'm more like, hey, you fell into a hole. I'm jumping down in with you, and I know the way out.
Right.
So this is the way, and we'll design it together in a powerful conversation and partnership, as opposed to me just writing a script.
Right. Yeah, it's super beautiful. So here's there's another 2 pieces here that I think we're adding. So now I think we might be up to either 3 or 4 pieces that I'd love for you to continue to integrate. We started, sort of like on the first day of Christmas here. And so she activates you, right? She calls you after 7 years, hits you up with this invitation. You're a yes before you even have time to think about it. And not only that, it comes with the extra added bonus of a new level of help that you hadn't experienced in at all, ever.
Exactly. Yes.
And so
like,
those
like
things,
a gift, not like a burden, but like a gift.
Like a gift. Correct. Beautiful. All right. So we got that piece, and that's going to be the central piece. But the next piece we have is this thing called the sabbatical, or taking rest, or being on the slopes, or rethinking who you are as a human, or what your commitments, where you can go up to a point, but ignoring someone's chronic pain is an unacceptable aspect of your interpretation, mine as well, of the Hippocratic Oath. So you then speak a bit to this semi, or really, in fact, forced sabbatical that you had for a number of reasons. Not only do you have your surgeries, the painful surgeries that you had, but you also get this challenge from the administrative jurisdictions of the medical world. And you're on break. You're not being an active healer, and not being reimbursed as such, not being, you still identify as a doctor, but in some ways you're not sure if and when you're ever going to come back. And so there's a rest period here that's very real. But then you speak to
it. Fred, frankly, it's not a break. It's being in exile.
Yeah, exile. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's much better. Much better. Yeah, it's exactly what it was. But now you speak to a third piece, and I guess I brushed up into it here, and that is your own experience as a human needing healing, like your own experience of, and then succeeding in receiving healing. So what it took for you to get over there are obstacles in accepting healing from another, right? I mean,
especially for doctors.
say more about that, Mark. I think we all kind of know it, but coming from someone with your level of experience, I think this will be extremely valuable. What does that mean, especially for doctors?
If who I am is a healer, then by golly, I'm doing the healing, not you.
Yeah.
Which is not true, of course.
Yeah.
We're just a pencil in the hand of God, as Mother Teresa would say. But at some point, if I'm not a healer, then who am I?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, earlier on in my healthcare career as being a patient, I had a lot of resistance to being a patient. There's a lot of vulnerability for a patient to be lying on a gurney, looking up at somebody, vulnerable, open, powerless, praying for a good outcome, and surrendering to a system that we're supposed to be driving. I mean, it's basically, okay, you're not in the back seat of this thing. You're in the way back. You're in the truck bed. And so I'm not driving. Someone else is driving. That takes something for me to say, okay, all right, you're driving. I'm the patient. I got to find out how to be a patient, which is eye-opening from the standpoint of the spiritual nature of saying, I'm a doctor. I'm the master of all this. How dare illness show up in my life? It's like denial. I mean, denial gets us through medical school residency and Mrs. Jones on room 3, but it's also like it's a smack in the. It's just like
yeah.
I am getting the perspective of what it's like to be vulnerable and need some help, and then allow it to manifest itself. Like I'm an outrageous critic of the conventional medical model, dealing with the irony of somebody splitting my chest open.
Exactly, right.
And undergoing the process of being a patient and seeing what does it take to be a really great patient. When I was at the Cleveland Clinic having my surgery, I was focused on contributing from horizontal, like thanking the nurses, acknowledging the housekeeping people, letting go of small things, and then insisting that the important things be handled. Like I extubated myself because I was in agony and they weren't treating my pain. And this is not a mindful thing, as a reflex, but
so it's not a recommendation for people in a listening audience that are thinking about extubating themselves. Not a good idea necessarily.
Like a misadventure, like I'm in the middle or cause of a medical misadventure, and now how to deal with that. Okay, that happened. There's a consequence, and then I can show up again. So lots of places to be vulnerable, which I think as a male, as a white person, as a sometimes male, as a person who's powerful and in demand, being vulnerable is a new place for me to live, and an opportunity to really learn some stuff. And I did. Well, I am, or maybe not. I don't know.
Well, one of the things I think that we share is this idea of the more experiences you have looking at different places to take on the elephant, like from different positions, different vantage points, and of the different viewpoints of the elephant, you get access to what the elephant might look like if you can really see it from the side, from the front, from inside, from outside, from the left, from the right, etc., the top and the bottom. And you really have had a host of experiences as we'll say as a recipient or patient, as a provider, as a contributor, a healer, a doctor, as someone who's been outside the field, as someone who's been fighting from within the field, who's someone who's been fought with by the field, and then actually saving lives too. Like being on the front end of an extremely delicate conversation is where you now find yourself. So extremely delicate. And of course, we've had many conversations with that. But talk to us a little bit about what are you doing now as a healthy healer?
I have three aspects to my practice now, and it's very dynamic. But first is my cannabis practice, which has been going on for about 10 years. The next is a practice doing a study on outpatient ketamine without needing the infusions and stuff. And third is this new opportunity that Kristen gave me when she called me. And basically, it's taking care of opiate refugees, people who've been abandoned by the system again. And it's like I dove back into a thing that nearly killed me, and it did kill my practice. And the stars were aligned for me to do that. It felt this exile on the sideline. It almost felt like being on the sideline with a game going on and being invited to get back on the court and actually being able to. Mm-hmm. There'll be a time where I can't, but that's not now. So treating patients who've been abandoned by their doctor and the system, who are suffering from withdrawal, from losing access to their pain medication, is an opportunity to help them or be with them through their desperate time and know that they're not alone.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. If you can look back to that long ago when you graduated medical school, did it look anything like this to you? Did you have any? What?
No. There's at least 7 or 8 transformative iterations of my career. I was going to be a family doctor in Hitching Post, Wyoming or something, and do everything for everybody, which is a medical practice from the past that is no longer present today. So I got trained in family practice, and then I grandfathered into emergency medicine. And then my emergency medicine career went through multiple iterations, including this opportunity to learn how to do ultrasound. And it's my case. I know. And so learning how to do ultrasounds at the bedside for the ER was just a transformative thing. Then learning how to be an urgent care doc, then learning how to be a pain care doc, and then learning how to navigate the minefield of a medical board investigation from a hostile medical board.
Yeah.
And also be with the intensity and the fear and the confrontation of having the DEA all over me.
Yeah.
And with the conversation from the DEA being, Dr. Ibsen, you're risking your freedom and your license by prescribing to patients like these. And of course, my smart aleck response is, patients like what? And the DEA agent says, well, patients who might divert their pain medicines. And I say, well, isn't that everybody? Like, how do you have a radar that tells you who's taking their medicine at what time and they're taking it right? And do I have to do that, and why?
Mm-hmm.
Are you asking the doctor to be a detective, a police officer, a regulator, as well as a gatekeeper? And it's like, it's impossible to be empathic and care about people and then be their police officer too.
Right.
Challenges, and it's asking me for a lot, and I'm just pleased and honored to have the energy to deliver.
Yes, indeed. And we're really, really happy to be on the recipient end, or in this case, a friend end of you being able to be sort of the highest, newest, revitalized Dr. Ibsen that's ever existed before. And you're pretty darn good beforehand.
Thank you. Well, I think there's an opportunity to assume to move on from being a lone wolf ER doc, it's time for your chest tube, to move into a sort of an emeritus role and step back from that. And not that that's wrong. I just can't do it for 12 hours in an ER shift. So the opportunity for me is to say, well, what's next?
What is next?
Or for me, why not? And
Okay.
and that involves being coachable and letting stuff open up, which has a certain amount of uncertainty and risk to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like being out on a branch, feeling like I'm sawing the limb and I'm on the other end of the limb.
Yeah.
Like treating a pain patient who dies, and the terror of that. And the gift I have of people in my life, like my brother told me, you decided to help Kristen. When you did that, you were inspired. Yeah, but now I'm scared. And he basically just said, too bad.
Yeah, too bad.
You've already jumped.
Right.
You know, your only task is to make yourself inspired every day.
Yeah.
And I think that's good for all of us as doctors, is to get back to why we went into this, and give up our resentment. And I have a ton of it. And it's just taken me years to give that up. This resentment, like, this is not what I signed up for. And of course, the answer to that is, of course not. And there's a little joke in the irony about that, but it's like, okay, what if it's better?
Exactly.
That could be amazing if it's better than what I signed up for, which is just to serve people. And I could actually do that again and be more effective at it. Whew.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And I don't need a medical license to do that, by the way.
No, you don't do. That's right.
It's like, okay, I can do that right now.
It's amazing. Mark, I know that there's another part of you that is ready to put this into the archives, like the written archives. Maybe get yourself a book, or like actually speak a little bit to who you've been, who you are, and where you're going. Kind of like the past, present, and future of who you are, and all sorts of ideas on how to make that happen. Can you speak a little bit to what does the future hold? Or, now that you've told us a little bit about where you've been, a little bit about who you are, let's say it's a little bit better. It doesn't matter, by the way, if it's better, worse, or the same.
Right.
Here it is.
Yeah.
What is next for you? What do you see 2, 3, 4 years in a row?
Well, I thanks for that. I tend to function in a shorter future than that. And so, well, I see myself saying repetitive things and answering repetitive questions from patients who are confused, upset, and betrayed. Well, there's got to be a book in there, or a manual. And I would call it something like, your doctor doesn't work for you anymore.
Yeah.
Your doctor has, the exam room's crowded. There's you, me, your lawyer, my lawyer. I knew that when I took this on in 1976. By the way, all the older doctors hated that.
Yeah.
They were all upset about tort reform and all that. And that's so done. That's so 1980. And now I see that the exam room is full of regulators and legislators and governors and lawyers and pharmacists. And we used to be colleagues with pharmacists. Now they're the gatekeeper. Like, how did that happen?
No kidding.
And so I'm seeing opportunities for how to create workability in a system that just doesn't seem workable. And that might be for the patient to go stealth. Like, maybe the system isn't helping us because we're asking the wrong things of it. Either bring sacred medicine to the system, or engage in sacred medicine by generating it yourself.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Amazing. And so that sounds like it leaves you as a frontiersman, as maybe maybe an activist, or maybe an ambassador, a creator of something that doesn't presently exist, or at least a co-creator with other folks who are semi. How did they say it? Like-minded, per se. what is that? Is that a fair assessment of where you're at, where you're looking to make a difference in ways that up until now haven't existed?
Yes, or I didn't even see them. Yeah. Before
Yeah.
it was up to me, and now I can see that collaboration, particularly with the patient, creating conversations. Like my pain refugee patients are too sick to march. It would be, instead of march for the cure, it'd be march limp for the cure. So how can I advocate for them and with them, but realizing that it's the patients that are going to be listened to.
Mm-hmm.
There's 1,500 of my colleagues who've been incarcerated for treating patients compassionately, and these doctors are accused of being drug dealers. And the way to know if someone's a drug dealer or not is whether or not they have a medical license. The drug dealers don't have medical licenses,
right?
And the Controlled Substance Act is designed to protect us, and it's been contaminated by an interpretation about what is within the usual professional practice. Or the DEA will take a DEA agent, come to a doctor, feign illness, and if we treat that patient in the wrong way, we've committed a crime, even though the patient's creating a crime by lying to us in the first place, or the non-patient. So there's lots of minefields for us to navigate, and the temptation is to say, screw it. Sure. I'm out. That's not. And the more people that say screw it, I'm out, is leading to a colossal breakdown that's currently happening. Like a patient of mine on 30 milligrams of oxycodone can only get a 5 milligram oxycodone tablet, and I prescribe it, and the pharmacist says, I'm not comfortable with that. Yeah. And where, that patient's left in a very vulnerable position.
Yeah.
I'm not introducing any of my French terms today.
Yeah, we'll save that for the late night podcast that we'll do.
Right. So okay, now what do I do? How do I support a patient who's not getting their pain medicines and feels betrayed? Well, I get in conversation with them, and we join groups that are helping us create other ways, including stealth. Like my instructions for my patients who are off their opiates, there's only one market now. The legal market's gone. And if you want pain medicine treatment, you got to talk to Miguel or Bobby Joe or some guy in a corner. And then if you're going to do that, how can you put some structure in to keep yourself safe? Like have a baby monitor so someone can watch your breathing, etc. So there are ways. They don't necessarily fit in the bell curve right in the middle. It's way out beyond the two deviations.
Yeah, and just to be sure, it's not, again, sort of like the same thing as not recommending self-extubation.
Right.
This isn't like a direct prescription to go find your meds, mail order from Canada or something. It's not what you're saying.
Right. No, what I'm saying is if you end up doing that, like it's like this for patients, I think that's what they're telling me, and I believe them. A key factor is to actually believe your patient.
Yeah.
But if your patient's telling you they're in agony and they're going to die without their opiates, my thought is, well, if oxygen were illegal, you'll fight for it for 3 to 6 minutes, and then that fight's over. So it's natural. It's natural to pretend that conversation doesn't exist. So I voice it because it's already there.
Right.
And so, and I go, well, if you're going to do that, here's what happened to Prince, and here's what happened to Tom Petty, who took counterfeit medications and died. Well, don't die.
Yeah.
Don't let this kill you.
Yeah.
Don't let don't let the regulators get you down.
Yeah.
Don't show them by getting out of the game, up your game. And if you do that, here's how to do that safely. So yeah, awesome. not a recommendation to be criminal. It's an invitation for Robin Hood medicine. Exactly. And Robin Hood functions because King Richard's gone.
Well, we start looking at, it sounds like what we're really looking at is, the future is coming at us fast. Probably by the time this show airs, which isn't very long, maybe next week, but by the time this podcast is really moving along, this particular conversation becomes obsolete. We have so many different new avenues developing in the technological world, in the information management world, in the artificial intelligence world. There's so many things that are going on that you really, more than anything, Mark, I look at you on the slopes and I envy that you've got yourself out there on this beautiful Sunday, making a difference in your own world so that you can be healthy and you can be the healer you came here to be. So you're a tremendous example of someone who looks at all the ins and outs, and I really appreciate you sharing with our listening audience what it really takes to be a bona fide senior healer, someone who's, just learning every day. Like today's your first day, like today's your first day again. And that's really what you're doing. So thank you for being that.
It's my pleasure to be with you, Fred. Thank you.
Thank you. And so let's talk a little bit. I'm sure the audience is going to be like, wait, who is this guy and how can I get a hold of him? Someone wants to find you, follow you, learn from you, consult with you, something like that. What's the easiest and best way to find you?
406-439-0752.
Wow. And so 406-439-0752 is Mark's phone number. And it's rare that somebody is giving out their phone number. And I remember I actually did the same thing on my first Facebook Live. And my host at the time was like stunned that I did that. But in the end, what I think that represents is like, no, really call me. Like, no, really, yep. If you got something here, like that's what I do. I heal people, and I heal people through conversations. And I think that's what you're hearing Dr. Mark Ibsen say to us today. So that's beautiful. Mark, if someone doesn't have a phone, how can they find you on email or in your website?
Mark Musher, Musher, Ibsen, IBSEN @gmail.com. Dr. Mark 406 is my website.
That's good.
Facebook under Dr. Mark Ibsen, or just Facebook under Mark Ibsen, or my Facebook page, which is Dr. Mark 406.
Okay, good. And hopefully by the time this airs, we'll have a bio of you, a little short bio, and we'll have a headshot so people can recognize you with and without the ski helmet. Mark, there's so many things we could talk about, and it's a pleasure being your friend. I really, really honor you for coming on the show today and for kicking this off in the direction I was hoping for. Go out there and get them. It looks like you have a beautiful day in the sunny slopes, and you got some powder down there, and it's not too bad. Not too bad.
It's paradise. Not too bad. Well said.
Yeah. All right, Mark, take care of yourself. Take care of everyone else. Give your family and your friends a hug. And I guess you're in Colorado now. Is that right? This moment?
I'm standing at the top of Hesperus Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Small little ski area.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, what I realized is that I don't know if I ski this enough. Maybe I'll become an honorary Hesperado.
A Hesperado.
They have that. Yeah, I don't know if they have that bumper sticker yet, but I'm going for it.
And is that a picture of Montana on the side of your helmet? Is that Montana?
It is.
Yeah, and that's like your home. That's like one of your homes as well. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Cool. Mark, be good, man. Great to see you. Take care. It was really beautiful.
Thank you, Fred.
You're welcome.
I love you. Keep contributing.
I love you too.
Don't ever stop. Or when you do, pick a time to start up again.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
Love you, man.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
So wasn't that amazing? What a great conversation with my good friend, Dr. Ibsen. And Dr. Mark Ibsen is up to so many great things in the world. And all he really is a day-to-day example of what it means to be a healer, what it means to be healthy, and then the really incredible, we'll call it synergistic experience of being a healthy healer. Mark knows his role as a healer. He knows that he is following something called First I Do No Harm. And he knows that he has people who desperately want and need his services, his uniquely qualified services, to bring forth the kind of human and the kind of healer he came on earth to be. This is the kind of thing that a healthy healer can provide. And I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. This is a man who is really off doing what's important to him. In other words, actually getting himself healthy. There he was, on the slopes in Colorado while he takes his call. And then speaking to the truth in an honest way the delicate truth, the frightening truth, the real truth of what it means to be healthy and how to be a patient, how to ask for help, how to receive help, how to be in the, the truckload rather than the driver's seat. So many things that Dr. Mark shared with us. And I hope you found this to be as inspiring and as contributing as I did. A deep pleasure to introduce you to my good friend, Dr. Mark Ibsen. And there'll be more along the other end of this podcast. We'll probably have Mark come back. I think that would be a good idea. In the meantime, make sure you follow him because this guy's up to super cool stuff. And just by being with him, I find myself not only getting healthier, but becoming a better healer. So thanks for joining us on The Healthy Healer. I'm so glad you're here. Feel free to, share this with other folks. You leave comments and likes and whatever else is out there in whatever platform you're catching this on. And we will catch you on the flip side. It's Dr. Fred. Bye for now.